All About Writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 24, part 3 on our series of marketing. I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who is an award-winning, best-selling author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter.
And I'm Sara, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning, best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher. And joining us today is our special guest, Judith San Vicente. And before we get any further into the topic, Judith, can you please tell us and all of our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background and what work you are doing with authors these days?
Yes. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I am a marketing professional and I've been working on marketing for books for more than 5 years now. I was born in Mexico City. I spent many years in Canada and currently I live in Germany, but I help authors all around the world. And my areas of specialty are marketing, but also IT, which is a good combination these days when many things happen on the internet and yeah, the world is so global and so everything happens online.
That's awesome. It's great to know that you have experience around the world because having that kind of breadth of knowledge of different cultures and what works in marketing in different parts of the world is invaluable. So that kind of leads us right to what we want to talk to you about today, Judith, which is how to get the most out of working with a marketing team. And so if you say that you get approached by authors all the time and they sometimes have no idea what it means to hire a marketing professional, what they do, and what to expect from them. So what can you tell other authors about what to expect the first time they contact a marketing professional?
Yeah, thank you. So, first of all, what they would need to do before contacting a marketing professional is to have their objectives clear. So, what kind of book are they publishing? Is this a fiction book or a nonfiction? And what's going to be the mission of that book? For instance, in the nonfiction arena, many professionals now want to launch a book because it will represent them in their careers and it will endorse their area of knowledge. And we get a lot of clients in that segment these days, but some other people are publishing a memoir, for instance, because they want to tell their story to the world, or others want to entertain with a fabulous sci-fi story. So have a clear goal and know what your vision is. Is this like, do you want to sell many books, or do you want to send a message to the world and the sales are a second priority? Or is this more for your family and friends so that they can have a memoir from you and then we will see what happens, that sort of thing. So have your goal clear is the very first starting point, I would say.
So then if they have that goal planned out and they're like, okay, I have my book or I have my book proposal or I know I'm going to press in a couple of months or tomorrow, what would you advise is a good time for them to come and hire a marketing team to get the best results? Like, should they come after the book is published, 2 months before, a year before? When should they start engaging with a marketing professional? I mean,
Yes,
ideally.
exactly. It's better to start soon, even before the book is published and before the title is set and the book cover is designed. Because normally what I do is I read the book and I will tell you what I think the USP or the unique selling proposition of this book is. And then we can brainstorm about the cover and see what would be the perfect illustration that would speak to your story, but also to your identity as an author. And all of that needs to happen many, many weeks before launch. So I would advise to get in touch with your marketing team as soon as possible. Maybe once your manuscript is ready and is mature enough for the marketeer to read it and to get acquainted with the story.
That's a lot sooner than I thought it would be. Like that you would like start that soon before even book cover design is done or even title is decided. That's I mean, Ben, we've talked about marketing and sales and when to talk to the sales production team and we've even had discussions where we've changed titles of books because the sales department is like, nope, this won't work. And I guess I never realized that the marketing side would also have input.
Yeah, definitely. Looking back to my years when I was in the publishing industry, the sales cycle is so long, like months and months and months, that the marketing team has to be engaged early. Now, if you're going to be self-publishing, the sales cycle is not as long, and you definitely don't have as much lead time required. But still, getting your thoughts together, getting your marketing efforts started early, I've always thought is a good idea. Now, Judy, I have a question for you, which is a lot of authors really, I think, don't understand what a marketing person does. And it's really important to manage expectations about what to expect from marketing. So, could you talk a little bit about that? Like, what can authors expect when they contact a professional like you?
Well, it depends on the marketing agency you're working with. Many marketeers in the industry these days, they offer these programs that are already pre-established. So you can buy a promotion or a space in a newsletter that is going to go to 170,000 potential readers, etc. Some others offer book tours or packages that include a combination of these things. And those work well, but what I like to do is take a more kind of personalized approach, and we analyze what the goals of the author are and what's the best way to reach those. So, for instance, if a person in business is coming to us and he would like to write a book and launch it, but he already has a pre-existing network of followers or friends or a very large network on LinkedIn, for instance, then what we do is we help him build or her build that platform and use that as an asset to reach their goals. For instance, if they want to sell, then we help them grow their follow and their presence online to reach their goals. For that, we can use many of the tools that are available to us, meaning the newsletter and also the promotions on targeted partner newsletters, or we can publish an ad on a magazine, on one of the influential magazines. So there are many things that we can bring to the boat. But in my opinion, a good marketeer will help you walk alongside and help you reach your goals. We normally don't sell the book for you, but we help you create that platform for you to sell the book.
Yeah, and I think that with nonfiction books, like you talked about, I agree. The author probably already has a pre-existing network. They probably have a very clearly defined market who are the customers for their main business, which the book is supporting. With fiction authors, though, it is a different beast. And Sarah and I are both fiction authors primarily, and I know that I've talked to a lot of authors who don't understand what marketing is. And I think authors do need to keep their expectations realistic. Like, what is realistic? If you ask a fiction author, what are your goals? To be a New York Times bestseller. Like, okay, great, shoot for the stars. But realistically, what are your goals? And I think this is a really important thing for authors to understand when they reach out to a marketing person is what is realistic and what can they do and what can a marketing team do for them. You mentioned that you're there to help an author. So I think that's really important and very valuable. Do you want to dive into that a little bit more? Like, how do you help an author do with their marketing?
Yeah, so we help them prepare their message and get their first tools ready to send the message out. For instance, we would help them prepare their brand because all of their content would follow a specific style, or it would be, for instance, within a campaign for social media, all of those posts or all of that content within a specific concept. Or we help them build their newsletter, for instance, and also get reviews. Reviews are very important in the fiction space, I mean. And we would help them reach out to reputable reviewers in the country where they're at, or and also in other countries in the language that they are publishing with. And so probably we will help them also prepare their landing page and have all of their digital assets ready so that they can start moving forward into the industry and building a presence. They can start building a presence. But normally for a fiction author, it can take a little bit longer.
Right. I see. But you're saying like there's some basic tools and techniques that a lot of authors probably don't know, and you can get them started down that path.
Well, and I think too that something um I would love to touch on along those lines of okay, helping with the brand and helping with I would love to know, you know, let's say it's their second or fourth book. They've already established as a fiction author a brand, right? So beyond those initial steps, if I'm on book 7, let's say, and I'm bringing in a marketing team late in the game, right? I've already created a online presence. I have a following. I might even have something like an author brand of some part, and I guess what I'm leading to is something we had talked about just when we first got on this, before we started recording. But, okay, like I might say, well, I want newspaper articles. I want PR. I want to see my book on lists in magazines as books to read coming up, for the next year or something, anticipated books, things like that. Now, is that what a marketing team does, or is that what a PR team does? And if they are different, can you explain to our listeners what's the difference between marketing and PR? Because they go hand in hand. So it is confusing and the lines get muddled, and sometimes people do both things or only one thing. So can you kind of dive into that a little, the specifics of that, please, for everyone?
Yes, for sure. And you mentioned something very important because it depends on the life cycle of the author and of the book. So there's a marketing strategy for different stages in the life cycle. If this author already has 7 books out there, the strategy is going to be very different versus someone who's launching their first book. And if the book has been launched a long time ago, also the strategy is different. So it all goes through a life cycle. Now, when you contact marketing services out there, many have PR packages, so they tend to merge these days. But there are also agencies that focus on, say, your presence on Amazon and nothing else. And others focus more on building like shows, like a schedule of podcast interviews for you, and then that's their strength. In our case, we have different areas where we can go to. And so we provide the whole package: PR, reviews for Amazon, or Amazon discoverability package, like meaning keywords and categories. Or if you want to build a schedule of podcast shows, or if you would like to be present with many of the big magazines out there, we have established links with those publications. So ideally, you want to find someone who could help you and who could help you organize everything. But yes, PR focuses more on dealing with the publications and with the shows, whereas marketing, it should encompass everything, but it could also only focus on social media content production, for instance, or only on reviews, or only on contests.
Okay. So just to kind of reiterate then, what you're saying is the PR is more the almost the person who's going to help you contact bigger media outlets, whereas marketing is like maybe direct to consumer, direct to your readers, helping you reach those people, as opposed to trying to like reach this weird broader audience through like a magazine article or something like that.
Exactly. And the PR person will also probably help you build your media kit and your message and the polish or kind of build the image that you want to broadcast to the world.
Now, Judy, I have a question about how much does the author need to be involved? Because I know, having spoken to a lot of authors, the idea of doing marketing is just exhausting to them, and they just don't want to do it. And they just want someone else to do it for them. How realistic is that? And what does the author need to do? How much do they need to be involved?
Yeah, that's a very important question, I would say. And if they want to sell very quickly, the author needs to be very involved. But they can also be more hands-off and let the marketing team take the first steps and then get more involved along the way. It's the author's decision if they're working with an agency that they trust. But ideally, yes, the author needs to be there, because if you're going to send a newsletter, it's better if it really is crafted by you and it's your words. That's the value that the readers are expecting, a way to communicate with the author directly, right? And if you're building, for instance, Amazon reviews, it's very valuable if you already reach out to your already existing network and people whom you know they are interested in this genre already, and they can go to Amazon and post an honest review. So that's where an author can be really, really helpful to the marketeer, and also to curate content, to communicate with the marketeer so that your agency understands your style and your voice and what's the content that is going to work for your books. So yeah, in the beginning, it's very important to be involved. And then as the time passes and you collaborate, it's okay to be less involved, but you always need to be there.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember when I first hired a marketing person, not you, someone else. Yeah, she had this idea for how to get me followers on Facebook and did this big blast, which I didn't really like and I thought was a bit intrusive. And she said, no, trust me, trust me, trust me. Okay, so we did it. And I wound up getting all kinds of hate mail on Facebook from people who thought that I was pushing into their faces, and like it was brutal. And
Oh no.
yeah, it did not help my brand in the early days. And it's
Yeah.
funny, the marketing person just kind of shrugged, this never happened before. Well, it happened to me. So
Right.
so I should have trusted my gut there and gone, nah, no, that's not who I am. I don't want you to do that. And maybe
Exactly.
it would have worked for another author with a different brand. I don't know, different audience, but it certainly
Yeah,
didn't work for me. So I think
exactly.
that's a really good point that the author needs to make sure that everything is in keeping with what they want to do.
Yeah. And a solution for that, what I would recommend is to have your personal Facebook page or your personal channels. And if you can, have another one for the books. So you have a page that is only for the books. And also, if your marketing team is going to be sending out a newsletter, they can also sign it as author Bennett R. Cole's marketing team.
Mm, right.
I would love to dive a little bit into like the expectations, in terms of any type of media push. So like what you were saying too, Ben, where it's like we're not pleased with the results. So I guess that kind of dovetails to my next question in terms of what's the ROI? Like, what is the return on investment that authors should think about? This kind of goes hand in hand with the thought of like, how much does this cost? Because a lot of people wonder, well, how many thousands of dollars a month is it going to cost me in PR and advertising? Because it can get very expensive very quickly. And then they expect to make that money back. Should they expect to make that money back? Or is that just an investment in their career to work with a marketing person? Like, so what should their expectations be roughly, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, thousands of books, a few hundred books, is the marketing part of your author career just kind of cost of doing business and it shouldn't be trying to be recouped? Or should they expect to like, yep, I've put in this much money to do marketing and PR. It should help me sell a lot of books and therefore at least cover my, I guess I'm repeating myself, but you know what I'm trying to ask, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So, according to the statistics, most authors out there, especially if they're new, they don't sell any books. Now, I don't want to discourage anyone here. It's possible to sell books, but you really need to have a strategy where you start small and have your territory and then expand from there into the world. Your ROI will take longer, especially for a new author, and they should be prepared to spend at least, I would say, just to give you an idea, $2,000. And then they can build their website and their social media channels and their newsletter and start with that. But if they are going to ever get that back, not within the first year, I would say. And it will all depend on how fast they can grow in their own territory. For instance, I had an author who published a book with a very specific area of interest. It was about 9/11. And he had already a network of people who were interested in the topic. So he started reaching out to them and going to the events and networking directly to them. And he was able to sell about maybe 1,000 books within 1 year. That was a success story. Other authors, a couple of authors that I helped, they already had links with a very popular podcast that was interested in that same area of knowledge. It was about communication skills, and they got an interview with them with that podcast for the launch. Now, that podcast had like close to 1 million followers, and they were able to sell maybe 700 books within the first 2 months. But that's because the influencer reached a very, very large amount of people, and it was one of the largest podcasts in that area in the United States. So I really recommend working with influencers, but in the book industry, you need to focus. You need to be really laser focused and have patience and start small with your kind of the territory that is most available to you, and then you take it from there.
Well, I think that we could probably talk forever about marketing because it's such a big topic, but I think we'll call it there for today, and we'll definitely have you back, Judy, for another discussion. But everyone, that is our show for today. Judy, thanks so much for being with us today. If people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Well, thanks to you for having me. And yeah, my website is book-central.com. They can find me there.
Perfect.
Wonderful, great. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our chats, and do feel free to leave us a review. It really does help us a lot. If any of you are looking for help with any aspect of your writing, including marketing, we recommend our friends at Cascadia Author Services. You can find them at cascadiaauthorservices.com, and you can catch up with Sara at saradalman.com and on Instagram.
And don't forget, you can find Ben at bennettrcoles.com, as well as Facebook and Instagram. Thanks again for joining us today. Please reach out if there are any topics you would like us to cover, and we'll see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.